Okay, welcome back. I'm just continue where I stopped just now, and we are talking about the case of PP against Mutusami. Okay, uh, okay, I'll just backtrack a little bit. I've already told you how, when usually the situation. I've already given you an example of a situation where impeachment can occur, and the process starts, as I've mentioned just now, when the witness have given evidence different from what you as a DPP expect, where he has deviated away from the statement given to the police, which is section 112, when there's given a different version which contradicts with what his previous statements was. So under such situation, what the DPP will do in reality, dalam keadaan sebenarnya, the DPP will take the copy of the statement, the copy of the 112 statement, will highlight the contradictions between that statement, the contents of that statement, and what he has informed the court, who has given what he has told the court in his evidence under oath in court. So highlight the difference by underlining. In case Mutusami dia suruh underline dengan dawat merah, tapi sekarang kita dah ada highlighter, guna highlighter pun boleh highlightkan the difference. And then with permission of the court, making application to the court, refer that statement to the court. And what do the court has to do? The court actually has to look at the highlighted part of that statement, whether underlined in red ink, the underline dengan dawat merah, and compare it with the record of the statement in court. Pernyataan atau keterangan yang telah diberikan di dalam mahkamah itu dibandingkan dengan yang di-highlightkan dalam dia punya previous statement. So what the court has to decide after looking at that two statements, statement in court dan juga statement kepada polis tu, the court has to decide, as in the case of Mutusami, whether that contradiction, that discrepancy, whether that difference is a minor difference, not amounting to a discrepancy, or apparent discrepancies, serious discrepancies, or material discrepancies. Dalam kes Mutusami dia bagi kepada 4. Kan? Dalam textbook dekat muka surat 337, if there are minor differences and no serious discrepancies, there will be no impeachment and no time wasted. Taylor J. further opined that a mere omission by witness to state something in his previous statement, which is mentioned in his present oral testimony before court, does not amount to a discrepancy or contradiction. Thus, this cannot be used as a ground to impeach him. If the discrepancies are material, then the impeachment proceedings will be allowed. So, perlu dilihat sama ada material discrepancies ataupun tidak. Sometimes the discrepancies can be just because of omissions, memory, terlupa, ataupun some minor differences because of different powers of observations. Orang ni nampak lain, orang tu nampak lain dalam keadaan memerhatikan perkara yang sama. So different power of perception kadang-kadang tu menyebabkan adanya discrepancy. Itu bukannya material discrepancy. So material discrepancies yang betul-betul bercanggah. Nampak tertuduh yang ambil kereta itu. Kemudian dia kata nampak orang lain yang ambil kereta itu, bukan tertuduh. That is material because it can result in whether the accused can be convicted or not. Dia menjejaskan keputusan kes itu di akhir kes nanti. So that is something material. Dalam kes contoh material, tak material dalam kes Pavon, the prosecution witness in his oral testimony used the word opium instead of opiate, which was recorded in the statement. Egon Joseph, as he then was, said that the chemist could be recalled to determine whether there was a material difference between the words opium and opiate. If there was a material discrepancy, the impeachment proceeding would be allowed. So antara opium dengan opiate ni beza tak? Some things can be opiate, tapi tak semestinya menjadi satu kesalahan. Something Kalau opium lah candu. Opiate, something yang bersifat seperti candu, ada mengandungi candu. So there is a difference. Sama ada dia material tak material, itu perlu kemis yang dipanggil untuk beri keterangan. So, katakanlah you boleh baca dalam keputusan kes Mutusami ini di muka surat 341, 340 dan 341. Saya meringkaskan saja, tapi I strongly suggest you read 340, 341. Saya ringkaskan di sini. Magistrate has to decide whether it was material or not. So, kalau magistrate kata it is material, there is a material contradiction kat situ, then the impeachment we allow. Tapi kalau dia tak kata, dia kata it's not material, then dia pulangkan balik statement tu and continue with the evidence as macam biasalah, continue with the examination in chief of that witness. Tapi kalau it is something material, then the court will actually allow for the impeachment procedure. Ni dekat muka surat 338. After the leave of court has been obtained, the witness is shown the statement and asked whether he made the alleged statement. If he denies, then either the matter is dropped or the prosecution must prove that the witness made that statement by holding a trial within the trial. If he admits making the previous statement, then the court will explain the two conflicting versions and is given the opportunity to explain. If his explanation is satisfactory, then his credit is safe. Otherwise, his credit is doubtful. Apa maksud di sini? Maksud dia macam ni. Katakanlah bila mahkamah decide, yes, there is a material contradiction here. So, selepas dapat kebenaran mahkamah, dirujukkan statement tadi yang telah di-highlighted tadi, mahkamah kata, yes, there is material contradiction. So, the next thing, bila ada material contradiction tu, that witness will be asked, ada tak buat statement ni dulu? He will be asked whether he makes this formal statement. Ada tak beritahu polis dulu bahawa seperti dalam statement ni, nampak tertuduh yang curi kereta tu. So, two things can happen. Sama ada he denies making that statement ataupun dia mengaku buat that statement. If he denies, then either the matter is dropped or the prosecution must prove that the witness made a statement by holding a trial within the trial. So, kalau dia kata, tak, saya tak ada beritahu polis macam tu, saya tak ada buat statement macam tu, saya tidak ada mengatakan kepada polis dahulu bahawa tertuduhlah yang mencuri kereta itu ataupun mengambil kereta itu. So, in that situation, the prosecution has got two choices. Sama ada biarkan saja, maknanya let it be lah, biarkan statement yang bercanggah itu kekal di dalam keterangan, ataupun dia kena buktikan bahawa tertuduh actually made that previous statement. So di sini adalah berlakunya satu trial within the trial. A trial within the trial adalah satu bicara dalam pembicaraan di mana ada satu mini trial dalam pembicaraan utama. Pembicaraan utama tadi diberhentikan sekejap. Now the process will continue with the trial within the trial. The purpose or objective of the trial within the trial is to prove to court that that witness actually made this statement to the police which they deny. So how do the prosecution going to prove that witness actually made this statement? First, calling the pegawai perakam lah. Pegawai perakam, tanya pegawai perakam tu, pada sekian-sekian bulan, pada sekian-sekian tarikh apa dilakukan. Pegawai perakam akan kata, saya ada merakamkan satu percakapan di bawah Section 112, Section 12 daripada seorang saksi bernama sekian-sekian dan dia identify tertuduh itu. Kemudian dia beritahulah macam mana statement 112 itu telah dirakamkan dengan memberi amarannya, sama ada soalan, jawapan ataupun cerita secara naratif, sama ada dia rakamkan percakapan tu, sama ada dia tuduh saksi itu ada tanda tangan ataupun tidak, dan sama ada menggunakan interpreter ataupun tidak, bahasa yang digunakan. So, apa-apa sahaja soalan yang mana bertujuan menunjukkan bahawa that witness did make the statement as recorded by that police officer. So, you see that? So, after calling all these witnesses, after calling all these dan witnesses ni termasuk that witness sendiri, witnesses ni pun akan beri keterangan dalam tu. So the next thing is, after proving that statement, the next thing is give him an opportunity to explain. Witness itu kena explain, diberi peluang kenapa dalam statement dia dikata lain, ataupun kenapa dalam mahkamah dia kata lain. So dia akan bagi dia punya penjelasan dia lah. Saya terlupa ke, ataupun dulu sebenarnya saya cakap lain ke, polis tu tulis lain ke, ataupun saya tak ada cakap macam tu ke, dan sebagainya, ataupun saya sengaja cakap macam tu sebab saya terpaksa cakap ke, whatever reason dia bagilah. So bila dia dah bagi dia punya reason, selepas dia explainkan the two contradicting version, selepas dia bagi dia punya reason, then di impeachment procedure berhenti, disambung dengan soalan utama, perbicaraan utama. So terpulang pada pendahulu Timbalan Pendahulu Raya sama ada untuk meneruskan dengan keterangan daripada saksi ini ataupun berhentikan keterangan daripada saksi itu dan teruskan kes dengan memanggil saksi lain. Tetapi keputusan sama ada the credit of that witness being impeached or not akan ditangguhkan ke akhir kes. Selepas semua saksi pendakwaan memberi keterangan, baru mahkamah akan buat keputusan whether the credit of that witness is safe or not. So itu impeachment procedure. Tetapi dalam impeachment procedure ni ada beberapa isu lah. Itu dari segi praktikalnya, ada beberapa isu. Kes Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, although explanation by the witness with regard to contradiction between the statement was not absolutely satisfactory, the federal court declined to disturb finding of the court. High Court qualified as the court did not have the advantage in hearing witness. Ini masa persoalan rayuan lah. Another issue when impeachment order is given, Munusami prosecutioner was impeached during prosecution's case. The magistrate ruled that the evidence was to be ignored totally. The defense applied to recall him but were refused. On appeal, the federal court ruled that after magistrate impeached the prosecution witness, he was no longer a witness for the prosecution. Tapi kes Munusami ni tak diikuti dalam kes Mohtar Hashim, holding that an immediate order to impeach the credit of prosecuting witness during prosecution cannot be given, and the witness is entitled to cross-examine and re-examine. It's only at the prosecution case that the court will decide whether to disregard the witness after assessing his credit with the rest of the evidence as a whole. So apa yang dimasuk dalam kes Mohtar Hashim dalam kes Mohtar Hashim dan juga kes Datuk Harun Haji Idris. Selepas impeachment proceeding, the main trial berterusan. So saksi yang bagi keterangan tadi terpulang pada pihak pendakwaan untuk meneruskan bertanya soalan pada dia ataupun stop the examination in chief there. Tetapi saksi itu masih boleh di cross examine oleh pihak pembelaan, dan pihak pembelaan akan cross examine dia. Pihak pembelaan akan tanya soalan-soalan yang berkaitan juga dengan keterangan yang diberi. Sama contoh dalam kes saya tadi, sama ada betul awak nampak orang lain bermaknanya bukan accused tidak berada di situ, contohlah. So at the end of the case, the court still has to take the whole evidence and make the decision whether that witness is worthy of credit or not, boleh dipercayai ataupun tidak. Okay. So at the end of the case, the court still have to decide whether to impeach the credit of the witness or not. So mahkamah akan mengambil kira keseluruhan keterangan daripada saksi itu dan juga saksi-saksi lain. Dalam kes Anwar Ibrahim, Federal Court held that an impeachment proceeding, the witness as a complainant in this case was placed in the position of the accused and must therefore be given the benefit of the doubt. The court also took into account the harshness of the effect of impeachment, whereby not only the evidence of witness will be disregarded, will also be liable for prosecution for perjury. However, His Lordship emphasized that the fact that witness was not impeached does not mean the whole of evidence must be believed. Such evidence will have to be scrutinized with care, bearing in mind the dent in his credibility caused by his contradicting statement. In the end result, if any doubt is created, the benefit of that doubt must be given to the appellants because they are the accused persons. So dalam trial within the trial tadi, apa yang dibicarakan adalah sama ada saksi ini worthy of credit or not, sama ada dia telah ada material contradiction, sama ada dia telah sama ada dia punya credibility should be impeached or not. So dalam keadaan itu, dia sudah menjadi seorang tertuduh. Bukan sudah menjadi seorang tertuduh, dia dianggapkan sebagai seorang tertuduh. He's not the accused person, dia witness. Tapi dalam trial within the trial itu, dia seolah-olah adalah seorang accused of giving contradictory evidence. So dia punya repercussion, kesan kata saksi itu adalah berat. Apa kesan dia? Dia boleh dituduh for perjury. Kemudian dia boleh dituduh for perjury. Sebab selalunya apa yang berlaku, apabila seorang saksi itu turn hostile, pihak pendakwaan kemungkinan akan kalah kes dia. Saksi turn turtle, tak ada lagi keterangan yang boleh mensabitkan tertuduh. Tertuduh telah dilepaskan. Apa yang pihak pendakwaan boleh buat adalah menuduh saksi itu memberikan keterangan palsu. Kenapa? Sebab dia telah memberikan keterangan yang bercanggah di antara yang diberikan di mahkamah dengan yang dinyatakan kepada pihak polis. Terdapat percanggahan. Salah satu daripadanya cannot be true. One of it must be false. So he can be charged for perjury, charged and convicted for perjury. So dalam in that sense, dia seolah-olah jadi adalah seorang yang tertuduh. So dia punya benefit of the doubt, dia kena seolah-olah seorang tertuduh, so he has to be treated like an accused person where the benefit of the doubt has to be given to him. So kalau dia bagi keterangan yang macam, oh saya tak bermaksud macam tu sebenarnya, there is doubt whether dia adalah telah menyatakan sesuatu yang tidak benar ataupun tidak lah. In other words, there is doubt whether dia telah menyatakan sesuatu yang contradictory. So walaupun saksi itu mahkamah buat keputusan kata oh his credit was safe, he was not impeached, tetapi tak semestinya juga mahkamah boleh mempercayai keseluruhan keterangan dia. Sama juga seorang saksi yang telah diimpeach, tak semestinya keseluruhan keterangan dia telah diketepikan. Mungkin ada bahagian-bahagian keterangan dia yang boleh diterima, sebahagian lain yang tak boleh diterima. So mahkamah still have that prerogative. So, okay, Kesh Mutusami. So basically, satu lagi keputusan yang you all have to be aware of, yang penting adalah keputusan dalam kes Husdi. Kes Husdi against PP. Kes Husdi ni keputusan dia perlu dibaca dengan the latest case, kes Aisyah. Kes Aisyah yang lebih dikenali sebagai Kim Jong-un punya kes. Remember the incident dekat airport where North Korean punya spy was suspected to have murdered the brother of Kim Jong-il, the president of North Korea. They murdered it using two girls, one Vietnamese and one Indonesian. The Indonesian was named Aisyah. Using Aisyah yang guna racun pekak kat mulut tu menyebabkan that brother of Kim Jong-un tu mati. Aisyah was actually used by some North Korean punya spy. So Aisyah punya case tu ada isu berkaitan dengan yang berkait dengan kes Husdi juga. Tapi isu dia lain sikit situ sebab adanya Section 32. Saksi yang telah tak dapat dipanggil memberi keterangan, so prosecution masukkan statement dia kepada pihak polis sebab Section 32 boleh tak statement tu digunakan untuk impeach? Impeach some other witness. So itu isu lain saya rasa perlu dibaca. Tapi dalam kes Husdi ni, apa yang ingin saya highlightkan adalah isu dia berkaitan dengan boleh tak pihak pembelaan memohon kepada mahkamah untuk mendapatkan statement saksi itu bagi tujuan impeachment. So imagine the situation. You are for the defense counsel. Lepas tu pihak pendakwaan, pihak pendakwaan, saksi pendakwaan sedang memberi keterangan sekarang ni, saksi pendakwaan yang sedang memberikan keterangan, and then you want to impeach saksi pendakwaan. You are the defense counsel representing the accused. You nak impeach saksi pendakwaan, and for that purpose you need the statement made by that saksi to the police, because you suspect that what he told the court is different from what he told the police semasa polis ambil statement dia. So can you actually get a copy of that statement 112, which is in the possession of pihak pendakwaan, which is a document of the pendakwaan? Boleh tak you apply for that document to be referred to court for the purpose of looking at whether there are contradiction or not, for the purpose of impeachment? Boleh tak dibuat macam tu? So persoalan tu timbul di dalam kes Husdi, which was referred to dalam kes Mohtar Hashim, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. 342. In present case, in making his application before the trial judge, the appellant's counsel stated, "We have a hunch here that the statement produced in court, even if they are privileged, we have the right to have them produced for our inspection, therefore proceed to the impeachment of the witnesses." So ni situasi yang saya katakan, saya quote ni daripada kes Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim juga, yang rujuk kepada kes Mutusani, Mohtar Hashim dan juga Husdi. So dalam kes Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim ni, ada permohonan seperti mana yang saya cakap tadilah, pembelaan memohon untuk melihat statement 112, which is a privileged document yang in the possession of pihak pendakwaan, tetapi pembelaan ingin melihat bagi tujuan impeachment. So dalam kat muka surat 342, in the present case, in making his application before the trial judge, the appellant's counsel ni for the defense lah, we have a hunch here. So alasan dia kata, we have a hunch here that the statement produced in court, and even if they are privileged, we have the right to have them produced for our inspection, and therefore proceed to impeachment of the witness. In dealing with the application, the trial judge had asked the appellant's counsel repeatedly the nature of his application. However, counsel failed to give any specific answer as to the exact nature of his application, except as to say that he had a hunch. Kenapa dia kata dia ada hunch? Sebab dia rasa macam statement by this witness tak sama dengan dia punya 112 statement, tapi dia tak ada peluang untuk melihat 112 statement. Statement 112 is privilege and belonging to the prosecution. So dia agak-agak saja, dia hunch saja. So the basis for his hunch was that the charge was punishable under section 3BB 377B, consensual intercourse, but PW1 comes to court alleging non-consensual intercourse, which is a punishable under section 377C. So ni alasan hunch dia. You can imagine the situation. Charge sekarang ni adalah untuk section 377B. 377B is consensual punya intercourse lah. Dalam kes ni sodomi lah, consensual. So the charge is consensual. Kalau charge is consensual, charge was made following statement made by the witness to the police. So mestilah statement to the police kata it was consensual. That's why the charge was for an offence of consensual sodomy. Tetapi dalam keterangan di mahkamah dia kata non-consensual. So the fact that dia kata non-consensual sedangkan charge is for consensual intercourse, so the defense counsel suspected that what he told the police was actually non-consensual, consensual. So sekarang ni, that is the hunch, the basis for the hunch. Now the defense counsels want to look at the 112 statement for the purpose of the impeachment. Impeachment atas isu sama ada this intercourse or consensual or non-consensual. So I hope you can imagine the situation lah. Tapi apa Federal Court kata kat sini? In this regard, Federal Court Dr. Mohtar Hashim and another had the question to state, a hunch is a presentiment, a mental impression of feeling, a vague expectation of foreboding, and would like to make it abundantly clear that the hunch referred to in Husdi, ni case Husdi yang saya sebut tadi, certainly could not have been intended to operate without some secure basis or foundation in order to activate the provision of Section 145 and 155C of the Evidence Act. And for this purpose, sheer innate intuition of counsel will not suffice. A mere hunch per se for this purpose is null et rem. Maknanya null et rem, terbatal daripada awal lah. It must be secured on the substratum or some basis or foundation. There must be a secure sine qua non. Sine qua non maknanya alasan lah, ground. Be some material contradiction or other circumstances unexplained by the witness in the first instance before counsel can move to seek to impeach his credit. So basically apa yang dimaksudkan, hunch saja tak cukup lah. Hunch saja, there must be a basis, a sine qua non, some material basis yang boleh menunjukkan bahawa ada material contradiction. In the present case, we find that counsel for the appellant had failed to comply with the correct procedure applying for the impeachment proceeding under Section against PW1's evidence. After being repeatedly asked by the trial judge, counsel appellant vaguely indicated untuk semua statement yang direkodkan dari saksi ini dalam penyiasatan kes ini, which include 112 statement. Clearly, counsel was asking for all PW1 statement recorded by the police during investigation, including statement recorded at Section 112 of the CPC, without specifying or identifying the relevant part of the statement. Based on the above, we hold the trial judge correctly exercise discretion in dismissing the application of counsel to impeach PW1. So dalam kes ni, counsel apply to impeach saksi pendakwaan PW1 dalam kes ini, prosecution witness number 1. So yes, it can be done, but you have to have a basis and not merely a hunch. Itu yang dimaksud oleh mahkamah. So siapa yang boleh kena impeach? Macam saya kata tadi, your own witness, witness for the prosecution. DPP boleh impeach kalau dia bagi keterangan yang berbeza daripada apa yang telah dinyatakan dalam rakaman percakapan kepada polis. Tertuduh sendiri boleh tak di-impeach? Boleh, but not under the CPC. The new amended statement under CPC, accused made the police can be used to information statement of accused made the police can be used to impeach if he was to be charged in respect of certain serious offences, for instance under Dangerous Drug Act, Malaysian Anti-Corruption. So Section 113 statement by the accused dah tak boleh nak gunakan untuk impeach for most of the offences. Tapi kesalahan-kesalahan yang di mana tidak ada similar amendment, Anti-Corruption, Dangerous Drug Act, Section 37, Section 53, where the old Section 113, similar to old Section 113, was not amended, where the accused can make statement to the police, dia masih boleh di-impeach. Okay. And then impeachment of witnesses who are not the accused person, saya dah cerita tadi, di dalam you punya textbook ni dia bagi beberapa example. Situasi A, situasi B dan situasi C sebenarnya. Situasi A adalah dalam keadaan previous statement made by witnesses, be it sworn or unsworn, do not constitute evidence upon which they act is to be regarded as substantive evidence yang tidak dalam main trial to be negara otherwise. Ni daripada kes Abdul Qudus bin Japlus, kes Sivora, cited the case of R. Golden, which stated previous inconsistent statement made by witness where the sworn or sworn do not constitute evidence upon which they can act. His Lordship held that the previous inconsistent statement made by the witness whose credit is sought to be impeached, which are introduced for the purpose of impeaching the credit of witness, are not to be regarded as substantive evidence which can be relied upon for the purpose of the main trial, in the sense that it cannot be used to prove the guilt or otherwise of the accused. The High Court won't reach the same conclusion. Apa maksud dia di sini? Okey, bayangkan keadaan yang saya sebut tadi, di mana pihak pendakwaan telah impeach seorang saksi. And untuk impeach saksi itu dikemukakan statement made to the police officer, previous statement, 112 atau mungkin apa-apa statement, previous statement, untuk menunjukkan material contradiction dengan apa yang telah diberitahukan kepada mahkamah. Now, apa yang dimasukkan oleh kes Abdul Qudus bin Japlus ni tadi adalah keterangan keterangan yang digunakan untuk impeach the previous statement, whether statement 112 or statement lain, the previous statement yang digunakan untuk menunjukkan contradiction dalam keterangan di mahkamah itu, that previous statement tidak boleh digunakan sebagai keterangan di dalam keterangan utama terhadap tertuduh. It cannot replace the evidence of the witness. So katakanlah witness itu telah mengatakan bahawa saya nampak orang lain bukan tertuduh yang telah mencuri kereta itu dalam keterangan dia. So pihak pendakwaan kemukakan 112 statement. Dalam 112 statement dia menyatakan bahawa tertuduh yang mencuri kereta itu. Contradiction di situ. Tetapi apabila dia telah diimpeach, keterangan statement 112 polis itu bukan menggantikan keterangan di mahkamah. Keterangan remains. Kalau dia kena impeach, maknanya tak ada keterangan lah siapa yang mencuri kereta itu. Melainkan pihak pendakwaan ada keterangan-keterangan lain lah. Selain daripada saksi itu. Tapi keterangan the former statement, the 112 statement cannot replace the evidence in court. Bukan menggantikan keterangan yang telah diberikan di mahkamah itu. So it's not substantive evidence. 112 statement itu cuma statement used to impeach, to show contradiction. It's not substantive evidence to be used in the trial itself. So I hope you understand that. And then situation B stated earlier, a witness whose credit is sought to be impeached denies making the previous statement which is inconsistent with his personal present oral testimony. The party seeking to impeach the correct witness has to prove the statement first is done by conducting trial within a trial. Ini dah cerita tadi. Kalau dia kata tak, saya tak ada cakap pada pihak polis macam tu, perlu dibuktikan bahawa dia ada memberitahu pihak polis seperti demikian dan dirakamkan oleh pihak polis. That's why we had a trial within a trial, to call that polis, pegawai perakam, interpreter dan sebagainya untuk memberi keterangan, untuk menunjukkan dia telah menyatakan sedemikian. Tapi dalam kes Dato' Mata Hashim Yosani refused to hold a trial within trial to prove the inconsistent statement on the basis that witness had admitted to the making of the statement but only denied its truth. There's no need to hold within trial. So dalam keadaan di mana saksi itu kata, ya, saya memang ada beritahu pihak polis macam tu. So he never deny making that statement. So tak perlu trial within trial. So tinggal lagi cuma untuk dia explain saja kenapa ada perbezaan. Because he did not deny making that statement to the police. Contoh saya bagi tadi adalah apabila dia deny making that statement to the police, so that statement has to be proved. So kena ada trial within the trial. Tapi kalau dia admit making that statement, then there's no need for the trial within the trial. So the next thing is just for him to actually explain kenapa. Situation C, question arises as to whether defense counsel can, while cross-examine the prosecution witness, say on a hunch that the witness has in the present oral testimony in court departed from the version in his previous written statement, apply for a copy of witness previous statement to be supplied to the defense for the purpose of impeachment discredit. So ni saya dah ulang sebut tadi. Case Husdi, which was followed by Mota Hashim and was actually followed by Anwar Ibrahim juga. A hunch tak cukup. There has to be some evidence. So dalam hal ini mungkin dalam cross examination sepatutnya ditanya lebih lanjut pada saksi tu. Apa yang beritahu pada pihak polis hari itu sama tak dengan ini. So kalau saksi tu beritahu dia tak mungkin lah, this is just a hypothetical situation. I'm just wondering, what if the witness say that masa cross examination dan defense counsel dia cakap bila ditanya apakah yang diberitahu pada pihak polis, ada tak beritahu pihak polis bahawa tertuduh mencuri kereta? Tak, saya tak beritahu polis bahawa tertuduh yang mencuri kereta, saya beritahu orang lain. Kalau macam tu, boleh tak diminta kemukakan pihak mohon kepada mahkamah untuk melihat statement 112 dia saksi yang di cross examine. Tak tahu, belum try lagi that situation, belum timbul lagi that situation, but I'm just giving a possibility. Sebab seems that the court says boleh tapi kena ada basis. So setakat hunch tak cukup. So you need evidence, you need basis. So di mana basis dia? Kita boleh dapat daripada witness tu. Kalau witness tu memberi keterangan yang bercanggah, that's a basis untuk kita impeach. Situation D, the issue arises whether a statement made by witnesses can be used to impeach the case credit once such statements already been admitted as substantive evidence in court under section 32. Ini situation yang saya sebut lebih awal tadi dalam kes Aisyah tadi. Orang itu tak dapat dikesan. So mahkamah telah membenarkan atas permohonan pihak pendakwa untuk kemukakan statement dia di bawah section 32. Section 32 Evidence Act is where a statement made by the accused who cannot be found or cannot be traced boleh dimasukkan ke mahkamah sebagai ganti kepada dia punya keterangan di mahkamah. But of course it has very little value lah sebab not subject to cross examination dan sebagainya. So can that statement be used to impeach impeach apa? Impeach maybe the maker or maybe some other person. So let's look at the case of Muhammad Jamil bin Yahya. Before that, Section 32 of the Evidence Act deals with the exceptions to the rule against hearsay evidence which in an out-of-court statement made a person not being a witness in court to be rendered for the purpose of showing the truth thereof. This consists of section which admits the hearsay evidence of a deceased person under Section 32 of the Evidence Act. Ini situasi yang saya sebut tadi lah berkaitan dengan Section 32. Dalam kes Muhammad Jamil bin Yahya, accused person was charged in the offence of drug trafficking 39B. Proving their case, the prosecution inter alia rely on the statement made by a deceased person during the course of police investigation, which was recorded under Section 112 of the CPC. Since the declarant had already died, his statement made in the course of investigation into the offence with which the accused person was charged was admitted under Section 32 of the Evidence Act. The declarant was a self-confessed trafficker in cannabis, and in his statement sought to implicate two accused persons. The issue arose as to whether the declarant's credit should be impeached. KC Vora opined that the declarant, like the declarant bearing declaration, it cannot be subject to cross-examination. Court should be open to impeachment and discrediting the same way as any other witness. To be noted too is that the principle of impeaching discrediting or corroborating the declarant of the declaration is recognized by the statutory provision and in fact extend to all declarants or statements made admissible under Section 32 and 33 of the Evidence Act. As Section 158 Evidence Act provides that whether any statement relevant under Section 32 or 33 is proved, all matters may be proved either in order to contradict or to corroborate, or in order to impeach or to confirm the credit of a person by whom it was made, which might have been proved if that person had been called as a witness and denied upon cross-examination the true matter suggested. In my view, the weight and degree credit to be attached to a statement by declarant paragraph I, who is patently not disinterested, must be examined with greatest caution, like 4 stories of false coloring. So given the kind of statement, blah 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 blah. So basically, apa kes cakap boleh lah, tapi cara dia macam mana saya tak tahu, because the evidence in the first place was very weak. So apa berlaku dalam kes Muhammad Jamil Yahya ni bukan unik. Mungkin beberapa orang ditangkap, mungkin 3-4 orang ditangkap yang dituduh, 1 atau 2 sahaja, yang lain itu jadi saksi pendakwaan kan? Dalam kes drug trafficking ni mungkin ditangkap lebih daripada seorang, tetapi yang dituduh cuma 2 orang, yang lain tu salah seorang daripadanya ni dijadikan saksi pendakwaan. So dia ada bagi statement 112 kepada polis. Dalam statement tu dia ada mensabitkan tertuduh lah. Dia mengatakan, mungkin dia mengatakan bahawa dia dapat dadah daripada tertuduh yang berikan dadah kepada dia, tertuduh yang supply dadah kepada dia. Tetapi semasa bicara orang itu telah meninggal dunia, so tak dapat nak memberi keterangan. So dikemukakan statement 112 dia yang diberikan pada polis masa dia hidup di bawah Section 32. So question now, boleh tak that witness yang tak ada tu, yang ada statement saja, boleh tak di-impeach? Kalau ikut kes Iborah, dia kata boleh. Tetapi boleh dibuat impeachment, tetapi I'm not sure how the procedure, sebab saksi itu tak ada di mahkamah, macam mana nak impeach orang yang tidak ada di mahkamah. Mungkin based on keterangan-keterangan yang lain. Tetapi in the first place, keterangan di bawah section 32 itself is a very weak punya evidence. Seperti yang dinyatakan situ, in my view, the weight and degree of credit to be attached to a statement by a declarant under paragraph I, who is patently, section 32I ni, patently not disinterested, must be examined with greatest caution, lest false stories or false colouring to the stories given by the declarant in the statement makes the courts draw a jaundiced view of facts which cannot be verified through the cross-examination of the declarant, and facts which may falsely implicate an accused. And more to when an accused faces a charge carrying a mandatory sentence of death or conviction of charge. So technically boleh, tetapi statement 32 tu sendiri dah memang lemah, not subject to cross-examination. Dan keduanya, orang itu sendiri adalah seorang yang coloured, bukan disinterested, bukan independent. Dia ada sebab untuk memberi keterangan. So yes, dia boleh di-impeach dari segi teorinya. So basically itulah dia impeachment procedure. So apa yang telah saya bagi tadi adalah satu penjelasan secara ringkas, because we have touched on impeachment before this. So apa yang penting you all remember adalah the procedure for impeachment, section 113, the amended section 113, case Mutusami, case Mota Hashim, case Anwar Ibrahim, the Soromi case, and case Husdi. So daripada case Mutusami, apa yang penting adalah apa maksud material contradiction as opposed to minor discrepancies, minor contradiction, failure in memory dan sebagainya. So yang jadi basis cuma material contradiction, material bermaksud yang boleh menjejaskan keputusan kes itu penting. So the procedure also sebagaimana kes Mutusami, the formal statement perlu dirujukkan kepada mahkamah seperti mana di dalam section 113 itu tadi, dirujukkan kepada mahkamah dengan permohonan, membuat permohonan kepada mahkamah dan rujukkan formal statement, dan mahkamah akan memeriksa dan membandingkan antara that formal statement dengan keterangan yang di mahkamah, yang telah diberikan di mahkamah secara oral, secara direct, dan has to decide whether ada contradiction atau tidak. So kalau ada contradiction, mahkamah akan membenarkan impeachment procedure lah. So impeachment procedure begins with asking that witness sama ada dia ada making the formal statement. Kalau dia kata dia ada making the formal statement and he did not deny making the formal statement, the next process is ask him to explain the contradiction. So whether dia berjaya explain ataupun tidak, keputusan dia di akhir kes nanti, di akhir kes, keseluruhan kes. Dan sekiranya dia deny making that statement, kalau dia deny making statement, that statement has to be proved against him, and to prove it, you have to go through the process of trial within the trial. So dalam proses trial within the trial tu, you call the officers yang merakam percakapan, interpreter, dan sama ada the procedures under section 112 telah diikuti ataupun tidak. Dan selepas itu, saksi itu sendiri akan diminta untuk memberikan dia punya keterangan lah. Dia akan menjelaskan kenapa dia buat statement tu, sama ada dia buat statement tu, kenapa dia buat statement tu, kenapa dia deny ni, kenapa ni, dan keputusan di akhir kes akhirnya. And of course, there are other principle attached to impeachment. The formal statement does not replace the evidence which is in court. It's not substantive evidence in court as far as the charge against the accused is concerned. And the defense, yes, can also apply for impeachment, can also impeach by applying for a statement under 112, which is a privileged document in the possession of prosecution, but a hunch is not enough. He has to have a strong basis for that. Ini antara beberapa perkara penting lah yang you all kena ingat. So make sure you read semua this chapter dalam session berkaitan dengan impeachment, okay? Especially case Husdi, Mota Hashim, Anwar Ibrahim dan sebagainya. Make sure you read all this, and if you have any question, you can ask me directly on this. So this is going to be the last lecture for this semester. This is dah habis topik syllabus untuk this semester on CPC 1. So after this is your exam. Uh, I don't remember. I can't remember when was actually the date of your paper, but if there is time, if that time I may make another video just to summarize as a revision before you sit for your exam. Maybe we can have a revision summarize, a summary of the lecture so far. So tengoklah kalau ada time, and for that I have to check first when is your paper. So itu saja yang boleh yang sempat saya bagi untuk kali ini, and I'll see you again, and hopefully not through this video. I hope to see you in the lecture hall, and honestly I'm more comfortable giving a lecture in the lecture hall where I can see your reaction and you can ask me questions directly on the topic. So anyway, good luck with your exam, and jangan lupa tarik exam, jangan terlepas pula exam pun online, so jangan terlepas exam tu. And exam is going to be only 30 marks, 70 is from coursework. Initially, the plan was that the 70 will be based on your lecture by the practitioner. Tetapi on request of some of the students, you still want me to give marks based on the assignments that we submitted. So we agree on that lah. So maka akan diberi based on your exam, and then for your coursework is sebahagiannya maybe 50% adalah based on your coursework, and another 50% is based on the assessment by the practitioner. So itu saja. Hope to see you again next semester, and again good luck, all the best, and thank you very much for all your attention, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.